At the White House, President Trump has signed a bill compelling the Justice Department to release all of its files on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump's signature represents a major U-turn for the president. He spent months opposing the release of these files, stoking speculation that the files might further connect him to Epstein. Some documents could still be withheld under a provision exempting files needed for ongoing investigations. Well, I'm joined now by Scott Berkowitz. He's the founder and president of RAINN, a prominent anti-sexual violence organization. He joins us from Washington, D.C. It's good to have you with us. Your organization has called for actions to release the Epstein files many, many times. So what does the release of the files, what does it mean for survivors, and what does it mean for public trust?
Well, thanks for having me. We have been pushing for the files to be released. This has been, a years-long process, and the congressional vote this week, it was important. The fact that the president has agreed to sign the bill and ultimately did sign it is a big step. But now it's going to come down to the details. It's dependent on the Justice Department to release them. In theory, they have 30 days to do so, but there's also some loopholes in the law. So it's not a short thing yet.
How confident are you that these loopholes are not going to be a problem? And how confident are you that redacting of the files is not basically going to make them meaningless?
Yeah, both are big concerns. I would say I'm not terribly confident. I think there's a couple more rounds in this fight. I think this is probably something that's going to drag out for some time. I think most likely we're going to see a series of releases and stages, but there's going to be efforts to hold documents back under, in particular, there's an exception in the new law that documents can be held back if they relate to current investigations. And the White House announced recently that they have reopened investigations against Bill Clinton and some other folks. Yeah. So that is the fear is that will lead to documents being withheld.
What can your organization, RAINN, what can you do for survivors if the files do become public, but also if the files end up never seeing the light of day?
Yeah, this is a story that has impacted not only the hundreds of survivors of Epstein and his associates, but thousands of people who've contacted us through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. It's a story that has really resonated with the American public. So we will continue to be here to provide help and support to survivors who need it, who reach out to us. From a policy standpoint, if the release of the documents doesn't happen, or if it's really slow rolled, we're just going to keep the pressure up. Fortunately, there's a lot of support in Congress. There's both Democrats and Republicans are pressuring the Justice Department to live up to its obligations under the new law. So we're just going to keep pushing until the documents are out there.
Yeah, we will definitely be following it as well to see what happens next. Scott Berkowitz with RAINN. Scott, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
But for more, I'm joined now by Mike Cowburn. He is a research fellow in the Department of Political and Social Science at Zeppelin University in Friedrichshafen. It's good to have you on the program. We've seen the president mentioned in files that have already been released. Now it looks like we're going to possibly see all of the files. Are we going to see everything?
So my expectation is that given Trump probably already knows what's in these files, he's made a calculated decision that he can kind of ride this out, and that doing so basically looked less bad than being seen as not to release the files. So I don't think it's going to be as binary as finding out, whether he was or was not involved. Of course, as you said previously, Epstein has said that Trump kind of knew about the girls. Now, of course, we don't know how much we can trust what Jeffrey Epstein said, but we know, for example, that there are lots of evidence that Trump was in the same circles. So, for example, in Thanksgiving 2017. And I also think the fact that he was so resistant to releasing the files does suggest that there are things in there that he would prefer not to be public, yes.
The president has ordered the attorney general to pursue a probe of any connections top Democrats had to Epstein. That came just last Friday. Was that, in your opinion, a strategic move to block the release of the files or to maybe distract public attention on what may be in these files?
It's hard to interpret it in any other way other than giving the White House an option for how they can keep some files back. Of course, if there is an ongoing investigation, they can say, no, these files cannot be released until this investigation concludes. Who knows how long that would take? I think in terms of trying to kind of muddy the waters and distract, I think it's been very consistent from congressional Democrats who've said for their part that if there are any Democrats implicated in these files, that they should face the full force of the law. And it seems like in this kind of partisan aspect of it, Republicans haven't really caught up to that yet. This idea that they keep trying to play this gotcha of, well, there's going to be Democrats in there, it might be in there, and what are you going to do in those scenarios? Well, the congressional Democrats are just turning around and saying, good, bring on the force of the law. If there's people in there, if they've done something wrong, then they should be tried and prosecuted.
There was a lot of pressure on the president to change his mind. He did that. Does that tell us that he is now more of a lame duck president?
So this does appear to be the first time where Trump and congressional Republicans have come into conflict and that Trump has lost. And so, as you say, this might mark the start of a Republican Party that starts to think about its future without Trump or post-Trump. Remember, Trump has essentially been the figurehead, and it's been his party pretty much since he won the presidency in 2016. And we've already seen some kind of prominent figures, people like Ted Cruz, starting to talk about a presidential run in 2028. We also need to remember that Trump is as unpopular as he's ever been. So if the midterms were held tomorrow, Republicans would do incredibly badly. And so the path to the nomination in 2028, whilst it might feel like a long way away, is probably just going to get started next year, is going to be to find some ways and some areas to create some distance to Trump, but at the same time, keeping hold of the coalition of voters that continue to support him and obviously feel very passionately in favor of everything that Trump does.
Mike Cowburn. Mike, as always, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thanks as always, Brett.